Okay, so our last week together, so sad, but I do want you to take away one thing from this course, and that's the focus of this week. Trying to figure out how statistics, what you've went through in these last 12 weeks, can actually improve the quality of your life and the ones around you, whether that's through searching out different statistical reports when you make an important decision, looking for data, critically reading some media report that you see or some graph that you see, or actually producing statistics and then using them to somehow impact the world. I hope that you realize what you've learned in this course is more than enough to do many, many things, to open many opportunities to you. So I want to take you through step by step something, personal story of what I've done with a specific data set, and just show you that what I've done really isn't anything more. You could actually do much more than what I did here. It's just a matter of knowing what to do and where to do it. So let me minimize this. I'll start with the data set. This is the National Center for Education Statistics. One of the data sets is the ELSI. And the ELSI has a lot of data on elementary and secondary schools across the country. In fact, it has the entire set of school districts in schools across the country. And you probably remember this from one of the early assignments that we did where we analyzed a set of schools or districts for your particular state. So I just used this, but I got information from every state. And I also got locale, so this was urban, rural, or suburban. And I focused in on the rural because I belong to a group that does research on rural education. So that was the starting point. Downloading that, created a spreadsheet, and nothing too fancy here. So each of these things right here is just a variable from the data set. There was a little, one or two other data sets that we got some of the variables from. But just a series of variables, pulling it down, sorting it by state, and then ranking the state. So that was a little twist there. That's something easily you could do. These are averages or sums, the median. None of this is more advanced. You've done much more advanced things than this because, notice, this isn't inferential statistics. This isn't null hypothesis testing because we have data on every school in the country. So we don't need to make an inference or a guess. We can just show this is what the current state of affairs is. So it's just taking averages, adding things up, and then ranking, sorting the states on each variable and giving them a rank. And then we kind of put them together to give an overall rank. So this Google Sheets, again, is something you easily have the power to do right now. From this point then, what we did is wrote a report called Why Rural Matters. And this was Jerry Johnson's down in Florida. He did a lot of the interpretation of what we found. I did most of the actual statistics and just putting together the spreadsheets, organizing the data, and then a couple other co-authors there also, so that we could all create this story of what was going on from the data. So data to some story that we could then present in a form to others. So we published the report, and then you can see now this, I guess this was the former one, but it had been cited 50 times so far. So 50 times in academic journals, other policy reports, government documents. And so the word starts to get out. From there, it's also conferences. This was a press conference, talking to different media outlets to try to somehow get whatever you've found, whether it's some interesting finding or whether it's just, in our case, it was just kind of this is how it is. This is how the current situation of the country is in terms of rural education. And there were some interesting findings in there, but the reason that it was publicized was more just to give people a snapshot of rural education around the country. From this, it got reported into, we were invited, we spoke at one of the Senate rooms in Congress, which was then sponsored by a congressman who spoke in front of the House of Representatives. So play that real quick for you.
Mr. Speaker, this week I had the opportunity to join rural school advocates from across the country here in Washington for the release of the Why Rural Matters 2013-14 report, a biannual report from the Rural School and Community Trust, which analyzes the state of rural education for communities in each of the 50 states. This important research document gives policymakers and the public fresh insight into the social and economic contexts that influence educational outcomes, and also reinforces how these conditions must be better understood.
So he continues to go on and talk about the report. What was important from that then? So all of this is just, getting word out. So to this point, there's really not been much social change other than potentially awareness of some of the issues, some of the social inequities. But the important part then with his speaking to the House of Representatives is we're trying to put an act through Congress that would actually reshape the way that schools are funded across country, specifically that would give more money to high poverty schools in rural areas and high poverty schools in urban areas, which is called the All Children Are Equal Act. So all of this, which would, if passed, we've tried to pass it now a couple times and we're getting closer and closer every time. If this passes, this would be tens and tens of millions of dollars to low-income schools across the country. And all because of a data set and a spreadsheet that did nothing more than sum some things up and average them out, but presented it in a way that could be passed around and spread through word of mouth. So my point here is that regardless of how you see yourself and your relationships with statistics, I've seen all of your spreadsheets, and assuming that you created the spreadsheets that are under your name, which I'm trusting all of you did, assuming you've done that, you have more power through the use of statistics than you probably realize. So regardless of whether you see yourself as a math person or statistics person, none of that really matters for the level of statistics you would need to do in order to make an impact. So however you end up using statistics, I do hope that you somehow find a way to incorporate into your life, to improve your life, the life of those around you. Feel free to stay in touch with me. You can always ask questions, whether they're little statistical questions or bigger picture, how do you pursue this kind of research line? I would love to answer those. So it's been a wonderful class. I've enjoyed having you all much more than I have teaching online education before. This has been my favorite class by far. So goodbye.